All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to proceed now with Week 11 materials from Industrial Drawing B20a. The themes for the week are drawing creation and revolved solid models. So, what I'd like to start with is drawing creation. Okay? What do we want to talk about? Well, you've made a whole bunch of 3D models. Right? I mean, that's a lot of 3D models. So the question is, well, what do we do with these things? The reality that we're going to see, though, is that even though you can model things in 3D, we still need to have drawings. You see, I still need to have views on paper. The 3D image is nice, but really, here's what I need. At the end of the day, I need flat engineering views that show the correct shapes and sizes of those faces. And then sometimes I need things like this auxiliary view or a section view, right? So the question is, how are we going to get those views out of our drawing package when we have these 3D solid models that we've been working with? Okay, and the name of the game is not to redraw things from scratch, right? We don't want to model this thing in 3D and then have to figure out how to draw the front, the top, and the side, because look, we've already drawn all the stuff, if you think about it, right? I don't want to model this thing and then have to make a drawing later on as something separate. So this has always been AutoCAD's weakest point. The fact is, though, several years ago, maybe about 5 years ago, AutoCAD decided we have to get on the stick and we have to do a little bit better at providing tools to turn solid objects into drawings. And you can actually do this with AutoCAD. So if we proceed with where we left off, let's take our first model here, right? How can I take this model and turn it into a drawing? Well, let's think about things you already know. So you already know about viewports, and you already know about paper space. So, can you have multiple viewports on a piece of paper? Well, the answer to that is, of course, yes you can. And can you change the orientation of those viewports to different orientations? And again, the answer is yes, you can. So the question, how do you turn solid models into drawings? Well, some would say this is the best way to do it. I could make one of these views the front view. I could make one of these views the top view. I could make one of these views the right side view. And then if we want to get fancy, we can even go in here and set one of these views up as an isometric. Okay, so is that going to work? What do you think? Does that look okay? If we were to turn off the viewports, would we have what we're looking for? Well, that doesn't look too bad, right? And we could even go in there, we can change it from a shaded view to a wireframe view. So you might think that the best way to turn a solid model into a drawing is to set up some viewports and then put them on the piece of paper. Of course, we want to make sure they line up, right? That's kind of a big deal. The edges of the view need to line up with each other. The top of that view needs to line up here. But if you were careful, could you do this? Could you get away with this? Well, you might think this is a pretty good way to do it. There are some problems, though. So let me introduce you to the problems, or let me show you what problems you're going to maybe encounter. Up in the top face here, I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm going to turn it into a hole. Okay, so I just used my press pull and I put a hole through that object. And then how about on the front face? I'll draw a rectangle and I will push it in a little way. Not too far in, just a little bit. 0.5. Well, actually, let's go the other way. Let's press pull. Let's go negative 0.5. There we go. So I made a little recess. Okay, so now let's go back and take a look at our views and see how they look. Alright, so my hole looks like a circle in the top, and that's fine, right? What should it look like in the front, though? See, shouldn't that hole look like a hidden line here and a hidden line here? Yeah, it should, right? And how about in the side view? The hole goes all the way through, so the hole should show as a hidden line tunnel here and here. So we have some problems, right? The viewports are not displaying hidden lines correctly. The little notch I made in the front here that I press back, well, same deal. You can see in the front view it is a rectangle, but isn't it true that in the side views it should be a hidden line? Yeah, same thing in the top, right? Okay, so what we're going to try to acknowledge is that the basic idea of viewports to create multi-view drawings, to create engineering drawings, it's just not a sound idea. It's not going to work out like you're planning. Okay, so if we need to make engineering views, if we need to make 2-view drawings or 3-view drawings or multi-view drawings, we've got to do something different. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to turn those viewports on and I'm going to delete the viewports. See, this is what we want. If we're working with solid models and we want to create an engineering drawing of an object, we need to forget about viewports, okay, because it's just not the best way to work. All right, and instead what we're going to do is we're going to use one of the newer tools in AutoCAD to turn a 3D model into a 2D drawing. And that tool is right here. So if you're on the Home tab and you look all the way at the end, you're going to see a panel called the View panel, and there's this tool called Base View. All right, and if we are tooling around, we're going to find that same Base View command on some of our other panels. Okay, but it's easily found over here on the Base View. If I go to 3D tools, I'm not seeing it, but that's because my ribbon is kind of scrunched. You'll see it in other places though, right? So Base View, what are we going to do? Well, give it a click and you see that the Base View has two options. We can pick something from Model Space, or we can pick something from Autodesk Inventor. Now, Autodesk Inventor is a completely different product that Autodesk makes, so we're not going to pick that option, okay? We are going to pick an object out of Model Space. So click on the top option and give it a second to fire up. Down on the command line, it's going to say select your objects. So I'd like you to pick one of your 3D models. Here we are. And now you're going to hit enter and then look down below. It says we're going to create a new view on layout 2. Now it's going to go to layout 2 because that's the layout I was just on. See, it remembers where I just was. So I'm going to hit enter. And then here I am on the layout. And do you see the little thing attached to my cursor? Does that look like the front view of that object? Well, it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click. I'm going to hit enter. And then as I pull the cursor up, look what's attached to my cursor. It's the top view. I'll click again. And as I pull to the right, look what's attached to my cursor. It's the right view. Okay. And in fact, you can pull in any direction you want. to make a left or a bottom, and you can make it isometric. You can make it isometric in any orientation you want to. Okay, but the idea is once you've placed several views on the sheet, you hit enter, and then let AutoCAD do the drawing for you off of your model. Alright, so take a look and see what we got. Here is our front view, and the tunnel for the hole is displaying with hidden lines like it's supposed to. The visible lines are visible, they have a heavy outline. If we look at the top view, the hole is a circle like it should be, and the recess that I made is now in hidden lines. And if I look at the right view, now the recess and the tunnel are both set up with hidden lines. Pretty snazzy, right? Even my isometric has the hidden lines on the corners and edges that you wouldn't normally see. So, newsflash, AutoCAD is smart enough to take a 3D model and make a drawing for you. Okay, and that's really what we want to do as we are working deeper into the material in this part of the class. I still need engineering drawings, except now I can use 3D models to generate them. Alright, so what else can we do? Well, let's click on that front view. Now the front view is the first view I placed. The front view is called the parent view because it's the first one on the sheet. You'll see there's a grip. You can grab the grip, and if you notice what happens, the other views are linked to the front view. If I change the location of the front view, the side view moves up and down. If I move it to the right, now the top view moves over. So this is what we call idiot proof, right? Because it's impossible to put the view in the wrong place. It's also impossible to make the top view too wide because it's being generated from the same model that the front view is. So of course they're the same width. And the side view, well, it's the same height as the front view because the model is the same height. You'll see there's a second icon, right? And that's going to control the scale of that view. Right now it's at 1 to 2. I could switch it 1 to 1. And do you see how everything got much larger on that piece of paper? Okay, so we can run through any of the scales until you find one that's comfortable. You don't want it too big, don't want it too small either. AutoCAD does a pretty decent job of picking a scale for you when it brings it in, but you can always change it if you're not happy with it after you put it on the sheet. Now, you noticed when I changed the scale of this view, all the other views changed. Why is that? Well, that's because this is the parent view. And the parent has characteristics that get transmitted to the children. Now, you can think of it like this. I have brown hair. My daughter has brown hair. Where did she get her brown hair from? Well, she got it from me, right? Because the parent has the characteristics that get passed on to the children. Scale is one of the things we can change about our view after we create it. If we click on one of these generated base views, though, there are several other things we can change. So let's click on the new tab that just showed up. We're working with a base view. It's called Edit the View. And I want you to see that here is the scale option again, if you want to change your scale. But here's a few other things we could change. For example, instead of showing visible lines and hidden lines, we can just say, hey, just show me visible lines. Alright, and now everything that would be hidden has been turned off, and we're only seeing things that are visible. Click on that parent, go to Edit View. Let's set it to shaded with visible lines. Alright, so now everything is got a little bit of color. Looks like that conceptual look with that green layer. You can see edges nice and clear along with color, and the recess in the front and the hole in the top. We'll take a look at that last display option. For appearance, it is shaded with visible and hidden lines. So now we're getting all three things, right? So shaded, visible lines, and hidden lines also. Alright, I'm going to take this and put it back on visible and hidden, because on a multi-view drawing, that's what we should see. But this one up here, you know, there's no point in having hidden lines in an isometric drawing. The whole point of having an isometric drawing is to make things simple for non-technical people. So why would I want to muck it up with things like hidden lines, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say let's edit the view, but notice I didn't pick the parent view. I picked this one. So this is the parent view. These three views were generated after, off the parent. So these are the child views, right? And just like the children can inherit characteristics from the parent, the children also have a little independence. And here's what I mean. I can change the scale of the isometric, and it doesn't change the parent view or the other two views. See, I can go back in there and reset the scale. I can also change its appearance. I can say, hey, show me shaded with visible lines. Right? And now I've got my engineering drawings here off the solid model, but I also have a nice pictorial view here that's shaded. Just because I changed the child doesn't change the parent. So back to the analogy about my daughter, I have brown hair. My daughter was born with brown hair, just like this view started off with hidden lines showing. But if my daughter decides to dye her hair blue, well, that's not going to dye my hair blue, is it? No. So the fact is, after views are generated off the parent view, the base view, well, then they have a little bit of independence and can be adjusted independently of the parent view. All right, so we are able to take our 3D model, we were able to put it on a piece of 2D paper, we're able to control its scale, we're able to control its appearance, we're able to make hidden lines display when they ought to display. What else could you possibly want, right? Well, how about some dimensions? I mean, I did ask, right? So here's some good news. Dimensions will work just like they did before. Click here, pull to the right, 3/8 over. Okay, and here is our dimension. Okay, so I want to get a depth from the front to the back. I can get it here, 3/8 over. I want to get a width from here to here. We got that, right? So I'm able to call out linear distance, height, width, and depth. I'm able to call out location dimensions. And then adjust them afterward if I need to. Okay, and now I want you to see what just happened. What just happened when I change the endpoint of that dimension. You see, it was here, and it was fine, but then when I clicked it and grabbed it, got that little yellow sign that popped up with an exclamation point. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little while, what that means, but basically the idea is dimension to objects in the model, and don't goof around afterward moving things to different points. Alright, so that's the height of that, and that's the height of the slot. Right, we can go through here and add dimensions. We can get the depth on that slot. I can ask for the diameter on that hole. Right, and all the dimensions we're going to need we can apply using the regular dimensioning tools. Okay, and of course they're being stuck over here on the paper in paper space. Alright, so how cool is this? We are able to take your 3D model, we're able to send your 3D model over to a piece of layout, piece of paper, we're able to generate views off of that 3D model. We're able to control how big they are and how they look. We're able to set some stuff up independent so it can look a little different. And we're able to add dimensions so that we have a manufacturing drawing now, or a fabrication drawing, all ready to rock and roll.